Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Kurt, and I am a financial advisor with Turning Point Financial. I will be your presenter today. Thank you all for signing up for today's masterclass on Social Security and Medicare. This is a topic that many of you have asked about, and it's our first time presenting, and it won't be the last. These two government benefits are meaty, to say the least, and we'll barely scratch the surface with our brief time together today. We honestly could spend all day and the remainder of the week if we were to cover everything. What we'll cover at a high level, and I must emphasize high level, are some of the more common and popular aspects of Social Security and Medicare. Here you can learn a little bit more about me. I have over 30 years experience in the financial services industry. I started my career back in the 1980s on Wall Street. I'm a fiduciary, and I take that designation seriously because a large part of my career was spent in legal and compliance departments. I used to supervise financial advisors, and I've seen good and bad things happen to families' financial lives. Today, I'm on the advising side of the business to make a difference and to provide financial literacy, advice, and clarity. By way of full disclosure, I am not an expert on what we'll be discussing here today, but I do believe you will learn at least one new thing. My firm, Turning Point Financial, is a fully registered investment advisory company. We are regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Our home office is located in Frederick, Maryland, and we specialize with federal employees. Our clients are from most federal agencies, and they're located nationwide. You don't have to be in the DC metro area to work with us because we use technology very well to communicate and service our clients across the entire country. As I mentioned, I'm a fiduciary, my company is a fiduciary, and that means we're required by law to put our clients' best interests first. We get asked that a lot, and it's important. If you're looking for an advisor, this is a good question to ask because not every advisor out there is a fiduciary and held to the fiduciary standard. Next, we have a look at our webinar calendar for this year, what we've done and what's coming your way. And if you'd like to be added to our distribution list to get reminders, just send me an email. As you can see, lots of exciting topics, and we're always open to suggestions on future topics you'd like to learn about. We take a short break in the summer, and then again at the end of the year when many federal employees are focused on open enrollment in November and obviously the holidays in December. All of our events are recorded, and if you'd like a replay of anything we've done so far this year, all you have to do is send me an email. I'll have my email address up a little later on in the presentation. Moving along. Here's what's going to happen over the next 30 to 60 minutes. Maybe you've attended before. You know that I like to be up front, so there's no surprises. Questions we'll answer at the end of the presentation, or you can email your questions to me. There will be an opportunity to meet with me if that's something that you're interested in. Your participation, it entitles you to a free consultation. I'll tell you how that works a little bit later. What we're doing here today is educational. This is not a sales pitch, and I am not here to sell you anything. And by the way, these slides are available upon request, and we'll have a recording as well. All you have to do is shoot me an email to get copies of those. As I mentioned, there's a lot to know about Medicare and Social Security, and we're barely going to scratch the surface. I have a combination of fundamentals as well as some unusual and often not talked about aspects on these two topics. So let's get into it. These are some of the areas within Medicare and Social Security that we'll be discussing, And this is obviously a very, very small part of all the different areas, benefits, and features within these two programs. If appropriate, we have a Medicare expert that we can connect you with, and there's no charge for their services. Further, we have found that making an appointment at your local Social Security office when your time comes is the absolute best way to get specific information for your unique situation. Now, today's slides have a lot of narrative and not the pretty pictures, charts, and graphs that we usually like to use. For that reason, you're probably going to want to get a copy of these slides. If so, again, send me an email. Most people know and recognize the difference between Medicare and Medicaid, and I would guess that nearly everyone here today will not need Medicaid, although all of us likely know people with unfortunate circumstances that utilize the Medicaid benefits. If you've attended any of our prior webinars, you know that we are big on tax planning, and it can have a huge impact on your tax bill to the IRS during your retirement years. Tax planning to potentially lower your monthly Medicare premiums is something you should all know about and be aware of. I'm referring to tax-free income that's available from Roth IRAs and life insurance. This income is not reported to the IRS, and that means you'll have lower taxable income and possibly lower Medicare premiums. It is possible to only have your pension and Social Security as taxable income, and that would be a sweet spot. If you're not part of the federal government and don't have a pension, then we're only talking about Social Security as taxable income, and that would be an even sweeter spot because it's a lower number. Now, to do this, some of you may need to engage in annual Roth conversions. That's moving money from your traditional IRA to your Roth IRA. Doing so locks in today's low tax rates, removes the uncertainty of future tax rates, and potentially eliminates required minimum distributions, also known as RMDs. If you do not take advantage of Roth conversions, then your RMD income will likely have a major impact on your monthly Medicare premium, and that's because RMD income is taxable and reported to the IRS. Let me break this down a little further because some of you may be confused. I'm talking about your TSP. Could also be 401k, 403b, 457. What are you doing in your TSP or 401k? Roth, traditional, both. When you retire, you will roll over your TSP or 401k to an IRA. It's a no-brainer of a decision. Depending on your contributions, your TSP will roll over to a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA, or maybe both. Once the money's in the IRA, then you can execute the strategy we're talking about of Roth conversions. I hope this makes more sense now, and if not, we have a little more to say on it later on in the presentation. Here we have some very basic Medicare information, and it's likely that most of you already know this. This is the most common Medicare healthcare benefit for people post-retirement. While this is simple, straightforward, and basic, if you don't enroll when they want you to, it could be a costly mistake. Penalties, fees, higher rates could all come into play. Costs we touched on very briefly, and those monthly premium costs are adjusted nearly every year. This is something you need to keep up with because it's going to have an impact on your budget. This is the area where your taxable income is a factor, and you should be thinking about a strategy to have the lowest possible taxable income during your retirement phase. Let's have a look at Medicare Part A. And I'm not going to read the slide. That's why I mentioned requesting a copy of these slides. They're narrative heavy. Just email me if you'd like a copy. My email address will be up at the end of the presentation. Part A is free to everyone, and most everyone should sign up for it, although it's not mandatory. Medicare Part A is specifically for your hospital stays. Now, some folks may only sign up for Part A and none of the other parts, or they may sign up for Part A now and Part B later. Yet others, they might not sign up at all. As you may be starting to understand, each of us has unique circumstances, and that is why this stuff is not black and white. Next, we're going to look at the more common Medicare benefits, Parts B, C, and D. These all have a cost, and that is a monthly premium. That cost varies depending on your personal circumstances, but it's always calculated from taxable income from the prior 2 years. That's right. There's a 2-year look back, making it even more interesting and complicated. Part B is medical insurance, and many of you may not need this because of the lifetime healthcare benefit offered by the federal government. The same is true for Part D, which is also common. It's for prescriptions. That is likely covered with the insurance you're currently using. Now, Part C may or may not be appropriate, and that's because it depends on your health and your needs. This is something that you'd want to discuss with a Medicare expert to determine what's the best plan for your unique healthcare needs. Folks, you can probably tell I'm painting with a very broad brush here today because the benefits are unique, numerous, vast, and that's not a bad thing. I won't be going deep on any of the particular benefits with our large group setting here today. Here we go with IRMA, which is a term you will come to know if you don't already. The two columns on the right are the Part B and Part D premiums, and you can see that the more you make, the more expensive the monthly premium. You can also see these are big numbers, and it can be very expensive, obviously having an impact on your monthly cash flow. This is where tax planning can benefit you by lowering your taxable income to lower your Medicare premiums. I know many of you are currently contributing to a Roth TSP, a Roth 401k, a Roth IRA, and if Medicare is something that you plan to rely on, then you're in a good place. If, on the other hand, you have large traditional TSP and 401k balances, then you need to consider Roth contributions and, more importantly, Roth conversions. We've gone into Roth conversion mechanics in prior webinars, and we'll be reviewing those again in upcoming webinars. Unfortunately, we don't have time to get into that today. Earlier, I mentioned tax-free income from life insurance. And for some of you, that may be a strategy worth considering. Do a lot of that with our financial planning clients who have the benefit of time, discretionary income, and want a long-term care plan. We can get into how that works one-on-one if you'd like to learn more about it. Medicare and health savings accounts, or your HSA, that seems to be coming up more and more often for folks working past age 65. If this is you, and if you enjoy the benefits of an HSA and want to continue to maintain that throughout your working years, then you need to know how this works. Generally, you'll delay signing up for Medicare until you retire, and I'm specifically talking about after age 65, the typical Medicare enrollment year. You'll continue to use your work healthcare plan and take advantage of the HSA. Medicare gets turned on and started only after you retire. Please be careful here and make sure you're getting good advice if this is you. Another circumstance that may impact those of you working past age 65 is what's the best option for healthcare coverage? Is it Medicare or is it the work plan? Lots happening at the age of 65, lots to know, lots to consider. And that's why you're here today. And I encourage you to attend other events like this one, whether it's mine or another advisor's. I have our experts' name and contact information here on this slide, and you're welcome to reach out to Kevin regarding this issue or any other specific Medicare questions. Kevin will be able to answer your questions because he's an expert with Medicare. Further, his expertise will ensure that you get the right Medicare coverage for your needs. Kevin's service is free to you and me. So this is what I have for you today on Medicare. Next, we're going to be shifting to Social Security. Now we're going to get into some Social Security stuff. And for most of us, that's the retirement benefits. Obviously, there's much, much more that Social Security provides, and that's a good thing. Social Security retirement benefits work similarly to your FERS pension. It's a guaranteed monthly income source. Some call it fixed income. For those of you who are up on this stuff and pay close attention to your TSP, well, these are the F&G funds. They're safe, they're stable, they're consistent, and reliable. I bring this up because knowing this may allow you to be a little more growth-oriented in your TSP. That would be with the CS&I funds. The same principles apply to 401ks, 403bs. You might be able to be a little more growth-oriented in those workplace plans. In other words, if you're comfortable with it, you can probably take more risk with your TSP and IRA investments because of this fixed income portion of your portfolio. Some of you have heard me refer to the pieces of your puzzle. This is exactly that. And this is how people really come to realize, understand, and appreciate how a financial plan considers all the pieces of their financial puzzle to come up with a game plan. We've talked about Turning Point's Compass Financial Plan in prior webinars, and I'll be presenting on that later this year. Nonetheless, it's my strong belief that every family needs a financial plan because it's the roadmap for your financial future, including how and when to access your Social Security benefits. Just like Medicare, we have some very basic Social Security information. There is value in meeting with someone face-to-face at your local office. Lots of factors will go into determining when you should turn your Social Security benefits on. And I'm talking about your health, your budget, your family longevity, current cash flow, and your goals. It is not black and white. It is not a simple formula. And the answer is always different for everyone. Most people seem to be focused on getting the most money and plan to wait until age 70 to start collecting. Many times, that is not the right strategy because of their circumstances. Some people like to start collecting early and allow their retirement assets to remain untouched. They can continue to grow. Other people, just the opposite. They'll take money from their traditional retirement accounts to lower the required minimum distributions and future taxes and they wait on Social Security. I'm sure your head may be spinning now because you thought you had this figured out and you had a plan. Maybe you want to revisit and rethink it. Or maybe you're tired of hearing me drone on today and it's time to exit. I hope not. Social Security no longer mails paper statements. Everything's online, ssa.gov. The info's very good. If you plan to start collecting while you're working, you have to know how that works. There are income limits. If you exceed those, the penalties are stiff, like 30 to 50%. Make sure you're getting advice if you're in this category. We work with a lot of folks on this topic, and if you'd like our help, you might consider scheduling a time to meet with me. Our recommendation is to get advice for the right Social Security strategy for your family. Some cool stuff here, and I don't think any of us have anything to worry about, but that's just my opinion. Social Security is a political hot button, and so many voters rely on and depend on it, and that is why it can and will continue to function as it always has. No politician is going to risk their career on this topic because it's likely political suicide. This slide is full of facts and should put those of you at ease that worry about this stuff. Ignore the noise is a line I often use, and many of you have heard me say that before. And that's what you should do when it comes to issues like this one. The media likes to whip us all up into a frenzy, and they often do with their sensational headlines. Well, guess what? It's not news, and it's not even about the news. It's about ratings. It's about advertising revenue. It's that simple, and you must always have that in the back of your mind. So relax, calm down. We're all going to get paid. Here we have one of the most interesting benefits for federal employees. And when I first learned about it, I was absolutely blown away. Maybe it's a commonly known benefit, but I don't think so. If you qualify for this gem of a benefit, it's early Social Security. If you're young, have been with the federal government for a while and plan on retiring in your 50s, this is one you want to know about, investigate, and understand how to qualify. Many years ago, I was working with a retiring FBI agent and her family, and they were in the process of moving. They had young kids, selling a house, buying a house, new schools, moving expenses, and then new jobs for both of the parents. It was a lot, and the FERS supplement filled the gap it's intended to until life worked itself out for this family. It's available up until age 62. Next, a few other things that you may not be aware of with Social Security. This is fundamental information that we all need to know that applies to almost all of us. Now, some we previously mentioned, but it's certainly important enough to revisit. Full retirement age, sometimes referred to as FRA. When to start collecting, we already covered, and we established that many factors must be considered. Two things that are certain: most people shouldn't collect before age 62 and after age 70. Penalties are steep if you're working and collecting under certain circumstances. Spousal benefits and developing a strategy around when and how to start collecting can make a significant financial difference. Taxes. A portion of your Social Security benefit will likely be taxed, and we touched on that early in the presentation related to Medicare. Same applies to Social Security. Taxable income will impact how much of your Social Security is taxed. Tax planning and having a plan and strategy to keep reportable taxable income low will make a difference with how much of your Social Security is taxed. This is another area where it's a good idea to get some expert advice. Lastly, once you think you know what you want to do, get a meeting with your local Social Security office. You can get your specific questions answered. You can ensure that you have a sound and solid grasp of how the program works, and you can get things started. Here's what we discussed today, and we're going to get into questions in just a few minutes. These are things to consider from our presentation today. We're back again next month with a webinar educating you on what I call your aging plan. Some call it long-term care or elder care. It's my favorite event and certainly an important topic for our time. Okay, here's my full contact information, our website. I'm on LinkedIn. I know I'm connected with many of you on LinkedIn already. I post content there regularly. I also post these webinars. I have a monthly newsletter. It's called Weekend Reads. It's free. I encourage you to sign up for that. Just send me an email if you'd like to subscribe to Weekend Reads. Last Friday, our most recent edition went out. I'm happy to share it, as well as sign you up for April's Weekend Reads. Lastly, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, your participation today entitles you to a free consultation with me. Send me an email if you're interested, and we'll schedule a time to meet virtually or by phone, or if you happen to be in the Frederick area and you'd like to come by the office, that's a possibility as well. Folks, if you have questions, please send me an email. Again, I want to be upfront and let you know that as a financial advisor, I am not an expert on Medicare or Social Security. So some of your questions, I may refer you to an expert or someone at the agency, or it may be something that our team here at Turning Point can research and we could meet about one-on-one. Thank you all for being here today. Appreciate your time and attention. I look forward to hosting you again in the future. Have a wonderful day.